Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another book highlight. Typically, at the rough midpoint of a novel, you want to see the main character confronted with some kind of change that requires him to sort of rethink his motives and his goals and maybe change course. And that's where we've arrived with Joseph in Of Sheaves and Stars. In chapters 15 and 16, Joseph is enjoying the favor of God in Egypt. He's about to be promoted by his master, and yet dread is piling up around him like sand drifts as he tries to adjust to the load of obligation he didn't expect. Things are better for him than when he first got to Egypt, but his situation is still pretty precarious and growing more complicated. He's dealing with continual temptations, people trying to test his loyalty and ruin his reputation, people trying to exploit his separation from his family. And the biggest struggle in all this is a temptation to panic. This is something we can all relate to, right? I mean, put yourself in this situation. We go through a crisis, and then God restabilizes us, and we start to grow in closeness with him. And we sort of settle into that. We think, okay, I'll just keep obeying God, and we start to see his favor on us and his hand at work. And that's great. But then some new change is introduced. Something shifts, and the measure of stability we've gotten used to is suddenly moving under our feet. Maybe new information comes out and people start telling you, are you really sure you want to just keep trusting God with this situation? Back when he gave you that promise, you didn't really know about this new problem. This changes things. But the thing is, it doesn't change God and his promises. He's not bound by circumstances. When he made those promises to you, he saw everything coming and he took everything into account. He's not just trying to get you from point A to point B, but he wants you to learn to grow in him and to be on this journey with him. Every step of the way counts. It's so easy to panic and wonder about God's goodness when things are continually taken out of our hands, or maybe when our efforts to improve our situation seem to either fall flat or cause trouble. But the best thing to do is take a breath and restabilize on the Lord. He's our anchor. And he's promised continual guidance and wisdom if we will keep asking and trusting. That verse in Matthew about seek and you will find is better translated ask and keep asking, seek and keep seeking, knock and keep knocking. It's not something you do one time and that's it. Going our own way and abandoning God's way is a choice. It might feel like we have no other choice, no other option, but that's not true. We choose to give up. Don't. The next time you're tempted to take back your trust from God because things are getting complicated, remember Joseph. Remember these Bible people who lived in crazy complication all the time. And yet we're still talking about what God did through them. That's how awesome it was. God has a plan and a purpose for your life too. But be willing to stick with him and keep reading this chapter, even if you can't read ahead. Be willing to believe that this chapter matters. And that's why I write biblical fiction, is because in the context of a novel, you can see how these characters are working through each stage, each step of the way, and we see where they're headed, but they don't. That's how God sees your life. He sees every step and how important it is to the plan and purpose that he has overall. Don't skip ahead. Don't try to take back the reins from God simply because things are getting complicated. He's still at the helm. Trust him.